Yep.
Welcome everyone. Second video today. So we're going to be talking about, what are we talking about, Deidre?
Core beliefs.
Such a cool topic.
Yep.
This is, I think, really the holy grail of personal and spiritual development. How would you describe core beliefs? Because people kind of understand core beliefs, but how would you
Mm.
describe it?
I would describe them as a sort of a almost like a unnoticed, even though you do notice it, power within you that stops you from doing things. And it's something that can be very conscious. You can actually be very aware, oh, I'm terrified of that, so I'm never going to do that. My belief is that that's frightening. Or it could be something you're completely unaware of. That's just something that you so naturally have, that belief has been with you for so long that you don't even recognize it as being something that's in your way or that you need to deal with.
Yeah, brilliant. What I think what's happening now, and it's really great, is that more and more people are now realizing that our beliefs create our reality because
Yes.
based on our deepest subconscious belief, we make our decisions, and those
Mm.
decisions lead to outcomes.
Yep.
And we can be conscious of that process. Like, so we're kind of like consciously choosing something, or it can be a completely
Mm.
unconscious process. And then suddenly, you're presented with, such and such job situation or such and such relationship situation or whatever, health or whatever, where you feel like, why is this happening to me? Like, why am I being punished? Like, why is life so hard? But
Mm.
then if you really start diving into yourself at that point, and you realize that it's actually your own subconscious wiring that has brought these situations into your life, and why is that? So in order to help you to resolve it. So core beliefs are deep, deep, deep
Yeah.
rulers of our reality.
And often very driven by the ego,
Yeah.
because of course the ego doesn't really want you to be happy or carefree or peaceful or anything in life. So when it can attach itself to something like that that it knows is going to push your buttons and make you react and keep you actually down, then it will absolutely use that against you.
Mm. It's so many people think that being happy, what you mentioned now, being happy, being carefree, having this kind of like optimistic perspective on life, that's not realistic. It's not realistic because what is being realistic is to have a lot of hardship, to be really scared, to be very worried. I mean, often people say like, you have to think about things, think, look, life is challenging, it's hard, right? And these are all core beliefs, and especially we got a lot of them passed down from previous generations,
Yes.
especially the war generations who have gone
Mm.
through so much hardship,
Yeah.
and it's been passed down and ingrained in us. And when you have this, let's say, the foundational level layer of your core beliefs, right? Because there are layers to core beliefs, but the
Mm.
foundational level of core beliefs, where on the deepest subconscious level there is this core belief that says life is hard, life is challenging, I'm not worthy of such and such things, it happens to others, not me. When that is on your deepest level, it is then so hard to experience anything really wonderful in life, because even when it does happen and the opportunity shows up, you will likely self-sabotage it. And
Mm.
maybe to mention one more thing, I have seen a lot of people over the years doing enormous amount of inner work, meditating, journaling, doing one course, another training, another training. I mean, they are so knowledgeable, so activated in some ways, but they are maybe not ready yet to release that negative programming about themselves and the
Mm.
world. So often people think that by doing more courses, more trainings, this is the way to go. And actually, the way to go is, yes, you educate yourself, but first of all, you have to change your core beliefs.
Yes. Yeah. And for many people, they're not even aware that those beliefs are what's stopping that progress that they want so much, or the success that they're wanting so much. They don't even realize that there's a belief system within them that's stopping that. I'd just like to give an example. I don't know, some people of this listening to this might watch Australia's MasterChef program. Did you ever watch that, Taya?
Not really. We
Yeah.
don't have to. I mean, we don't watch TV, so
Yeah, yeah. My only favorite program on TV. So recently there was the final of it, and so it came down to two people in the final, and there was a guy and a girl, and the guy, and he just, so they interview them to camera while that's going on, and throughout the competition. And so he kept saying, I never win anything. I always come second. Every time I've gotten to the finals of anything, every time my team that I coach gets to the final of anything, we always are runners up. We always come second. But that's not going to happen this time. This time I'm going to win. This time I'm going to win. But I always come second. I always come second. Guess what
Wow.
happened?
He,
He came
oh,
second because that belief was overriding what he actually really
oh,
wanted.
that's so brilliant.
And that's where those beliefs really come in, as you think that, you're putting all of this effort into going in a certain positive direction, and you just don't realize that there's this little voice or this little thing or belief in the back of your head that's put a huge handbrake on that, and it's not going to move forward until you release that handbrake.
Oh, that's so beautiful and so powerful. And you know what? What I've learned also throughout my own journey, because, we all have our limiting
Mm,
core beliefs. I've learned through my personal journey, as well as working with my students, is that, once you get clarity on what it is that you really want. So for this person, it was winning the MasterChef, right?
mm, yeah,
For somebody else, might be like moving into a really beautiful relationship, or having a beautiful home, or a great career, or whatever it is, like health, well-being, whatever it is. Once you have clarity on what it is that is truly feels aligned with you, there's number two. Number two rule is you have to allow it. You have to allow yourself to become that person who is happy, that person that is, wins the show, that person that is successful, that is healthy, that is fit, that is fulfilled. You have to allow yourself. And often people, again, I'm going to go back to what I was saying earlier, people would study all sorts of things, all those strategies, techniques,
yeah,
yes, and they get that clarity. That's great. That's step number one. Step number two is now you have to allow yourself to be that person who implements all that knowledge, all of that. And this is where, honestly, it's an enormous self-sabotage in people, enormous drive to prove to themselves that no, wait a minute, no, I'm not worthy. I'm just going to prove it. And the way I'm going to prove it, I'm completely going to sabotage everything that I've done, so completely destroy my sandcastle so I can prove it to you, prove it to myself, prove it to all of the people, everything, all life, that this is my deepest belief.
mm,
And these deepest beliefs are like magnets. They're forces in us. They're real forces.
yeah,
And we ourselves have the power to change those forces, to rewire ourselves. And it takes, really, from my experience, only a little bit of work. Yes, you have to do a lot of development, but when it comes to that final switch, final button, when you say, you know what, I allow myself to be really happy, I allow myself to shine my light, it's really simple.
mm,
It is simple at the end
yeah.
of the day.
And do you think a lot of that limitation there comes to people not believing that they're worthy of it, or not
Yeah.
believing that they're good enough for it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would say low self-worth, or
mm,
even just the definition of what self-worth is. I would
yeah,
say this is one of the biggest problems in the matrix. This is one of the biggest implants into the
yeah,
collective consciousness. Because look, if everyone feels that they're not good enough, that's what I would call this low self-worth. It's actually
yeah,
not good enough. People, maybe all of you that are watching, think about it. Do you wake up with a sense of, I am good enough, I'm amazing? Do you live throughout the day feeling really good about yourself? No matter what happens, no matter what you've been shown on the billboards or on the social media, or, maybe today you're going to have some success, maybe tomorrow you're going to have some losses, but you still feel great about yourself. So if you do have that sense of you are good enough, you don't need to fix anything, you are already beautiful, wonderful, enough, more than enough. If you have that, then you hack the matrix.
mm,
If you don't have that, you can have all the knowledge, all the understanding. I mean, understand things that are almost humanly impossible to understand. But
yeah,
if you still carry the sense of, I'm not good enough,
yeah,
it's not landing anywhere. All that knowledge, all that understanding, it's not landing anywhere. And this is how I feel that collective consciousness of humanity has been
mm,
really manipulated.
yes,
Think about it. If
yes,
people feel not good enough from day one, and they're being told by everyone, even from their most lovingly meaning parents,
Yep.
then you have a grip on people, you have a control on people because they already don't feel good enough. So they're going to do everything in their power to try to get at least a little bit of that sense of being good enough. So all of the toxic behavior comes from not being good enough. All of the bad decisions we make, all of the success we create often comes from because I'm not good enough. And you know where that leads success? That it's based on the wrong foundations, well, to burnout, to stress, to disease, and so on. So we cannot escape this
Yes.
one main core belief.
Yeah. And there is such a strong, especially you can really see it very clearly in someone's astrology, the connection between your sense of self-worth and your
Mm,
ability to make money or to manifest anything. Because if you
yeah,
don't think you're worthy of it, as you said, or if you don't see yourself being that person, having that life, then that's the kind of the missing link where you've got to be able to see it. You can't manifest, as we know, from a sense of lack. You can't,
yes,
you know, you've got to actually see it, believe it. And that's, I think, where a lot of people get stuck, where they don't believe that there's this little thing at the back of their mind going, you're not going to do this, you're not going to be able to do this. And they need to learn to override that. And
yeah.
what I also, when we talked a bit about past lives yesterday, and a lot of this can come through your bloodline, through your ancestral lines, where your mother or your father never thought they were good enough, and
Mhm.
and your grandparents never thought they were good enough to do what they wanted to do and have the life they wanted to have. And so it's
Exactly.
often handed down in our DNA as something that we have to clear karmically for our ancestral lines. And when we do clear something that's been a burden or a problem for the ancestral line for a long time, we clear it 7 generations back and 7 generations forward.
Mm.
So we're clearing it for our children, our children's children, and so on and so on. So it's a massive thing that we take on, but it's part of our journey. That's what we came here to do in this lifetime.
Yeah. And it's, people, I just feel that if people really, really would reflect on what we're talking about now, not just listen to it and say, oh, yeah, of course, I already know that. Like we always say that, I already know that. It's nothing new.
Yeah,
I mean, of course, it's nothing new. We're not reinventing the wheel here.
yeah,
Like it's
yeah.
impossible to reinvent the wheel here. We're actually talking about the fact of implementing that, not just
Mm,
knowing it, but
yeah,
actually really reflecting on it and saying like, do I really have a sense of being good enough? Do I operate in my day-to-day life from a space of being whole, feeling complete, or do I come from a place, like you said, from a place of lack? And
mm,
often people also, what I've seen is that they try to do a lot of inner work and spiritual work to escape themselves,
yes, yes,
spiritually escaping their reality. No, you have to do the opposite. You have to not escape your reality. You have to figure out how to make your reality the most amazing reality there is. And people do have a lot of issues around that. So they, not really understanding that you have to implement everything. You have to sit sometimes in silence, journal, and really break down the elements of or the foundational blocks of your own relationship with
mm,
yourself. And you
yeah,
kind of have to make this decision, am I going to be in this relationship with myself for the rest of this lifetime? Do I want to sabotage myself, feel bad about myself, criticize myself, tell myself I'm not worthy, that it's not possible? If so, do you know what? Make at least a conscious decision and don't pretend and lie to yourself that you're going to do all this inner work so you can fix these things, because it's impossible to fix them. No, you have to basically make a decision, or you make a decision that your relationship with yourself, you're going to do everything in your power to fix it, and
yes,
you're not going to allow any other forces or outside voices to, or even when your own voice of
mm,
self-sabotage to take over. And it's a decision, and
yeah,
it's a commitment, and it's a commitment that lasts a lifetime or many
yes,
lifetimes, and we need to
absolutely.
make those decisions.
Yeah. And again, people get so caught up in these beliefs that they, I've seen lots of different ways that people deal with them, and often a very common way is to sort of not own that belief as being your own, but actually blame it on everybody around you that created this condition or this situation for you that you now can't get out of. But it
Mhm.
wasn't your fault. It's not, it's not on me. It must be somebody else that did it. So it's
Yeah.
again that taking that responsibility for who we are and what we've come here for.
I think, one of the reasons why people find it so hard to take responsibility, I mean, first of all, we have to understand what it means to take responsibility. To take responsibility doesn't mean that you own somebody else's bad behavior. No,
No,
it just
no.
means that taking responsibility means that you realize that if something is happening in your reality, to an extent, it's showing you something about yourself. And that is so essential that you say, okay, I have this situation in my life. So why is it really happening to me? Why is this, what is this showing me about myself? And then secondly, when you actually reflect on that, instead of pointing the finger, you
Yeah.
go in, you go within and you heal and you work on yourself. And this vicious cycle of projections and mirroring stops.
Mm.
However, again, going back to the simple fact, people need to make a decision, whether they want to stay in this repetitive cycle of all of that or not.
Yeah. And they've got to understand that the reason you want to do this is so that you can have a better life, so that you can have that peace, have that happiness, have all of that success, rather than thinking that this is just another job that you have to do. There is, the ultimate result at the end of it. And so it's hard. It's hard to go within and take responsibility and do all those things. It's not easy, but it's just surpasses everything. It just gives you that courage and that confidence in yourself, and you start to realize. I mean, in some trains of spiritual thinking, they
Mhm.
believe that there's only you here. There's nobody else. It's just you on your own. So
Right.
if that's the case, not something I 100% believe myself, but if that
Mm.
is the case, then how can
Yeah.
you blame anybody else? You've got to take responsibility
Yeah.
yourself, and you've got to do it with love. Don't take responsibility by beating up on yourself and think, I should be better than this. I should know better. I should have changed this and I could have changed that. You've got to do it with love. Okay, I'm going to work through this. I love myself enough to work through these challenges.
Yeah. And often, like, people feel so uncomfortable with the uncomfortable feelings. And this is also what we need to recognize, that life will always give us all sorts of experiences, and you have to become comfortable with the uncomfortable. And when you
Yeah.
do, you just ride those waves. And what you realize by riding those waves, and I'm not going to say they don't get really intense sometimes, but what happens is you really figure out what life is all about. It's
Mm.
your growth, it's your evolution. And so many people are completely blindfolded to reality, to what this world really is about.
Yeah.
What my guides always say is that this world is a platform, a learning platform, where
Mm.
you're actually learning how to create realities. So you can create any type of reality you want. You have been given essential elements, which are, let's say, your destiny, but you can use those elements however you want. You can, you have eggs, you have flour, you have salt, you can make bread, or you can make burned bread, or you can, there's so many options how you can use those elements. And this is what we come here to do as souls, to learn to create realities, to be our own masters of this reality. So that doesn't mean just dealing with things that come into our field, in our world, and kind of dealing with them and feeling better about them, but actually being on top of things and really
Mm.
saying, you know what, life has taught me many important lessons. How can I now channel that into creating a life that I really want to be living, life that feels really, really aligned? And what is against you? Against you, what's stacked against us, right? It's all the outside forces, as
Yeah.
well as, most importantly, our own subconscious unresolved stuff.
Mhm.
So if you believe it, then you will receive it. If you
Yeah.
don't believe it, you will not. And this is the game. So each to their own, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And an interesting way to look at that is if somebody said something to you, insults you in some way, and it's not something that you have ever thought about yourself in that way. If they sort of said to you, I don't know, say you've always liked your eyes, and someone said, "Oh, your eyes are strange," and it's
Mhm.
something that's never ever occurred to you that your eyes might be anything less than perfect. That insult or whatever it's however it's meant will just go right over you. You won't
Yeah,
connect to it.
yeah,
But if that's already a weakness, if you already think your eyes are a bit wonky or whatever, then you're gonna wear that insult and you're gonna hold on to that and you're gonna encourage it to come into you because it's already a belief that you're holding on to. So
yeah,
this is where we really see the connection between what we believe and
yeah,
how that can damage us and
yeah.
what we don't believe and how we're actually quite immune to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Our perspective or core beliefs that we have about ourselves, the world, relationships, and everything else in life determines the rules by
Yeah.
which we live our lives. So this is basically what happens. Your core beliefs are the rules by which you live your life. And
Mm.
when you change your core beliefs, something most powerful happens. Now, you can't, also what I would like to say is that you can't just change core beliefs. Okay, that's a great idea, Taya and Deidre. I'm just gonna now start feeling so good about myself. Great idea. Well, often you actually have to create space for that change to occur. So often we carry a lot of like emotions we haven't expressed yet, and we might not even be aware of them,
Mm,
emotional baggage. So there might be a lot of sadness, a lot of grief, a lot of anger, a lot of trauma, a lot of like unexpressed stuff. And when these things are not communicated, and it can be from this lifetime as well as past lives, when this energy has not been cleared and communicated, you actually, it's really hard to create any new core beliefs, because that energy will keep coming back
mm,
with
mm,
full force. And you'll be like, oh, I felt really good for one day about myself, and now I feel really, really bad. Okay, that means that we need to create space. We need to open up those wounded parts of your
mm.
own being, of your inner world, and we need to facilitate opportunities to heal, to go within, to release the
Absolutely.
energy, to
Yeah.
cry it out, to journal it out, to talk it out, like whatever it is, so your inner world releases all of
Mm. And again, it all comes
it.
down to fear. The
Yes.
fear of not of feeling too much, or getting stuck in those feelings, or getting lost in those feelings.
Yeah.
It's a huge fear, because I know for a lot of people, and I know also for myself, sometimes you get stuck in feelings, and you think, if I open up too much to this, I might get lost in it and never come back. But
Yes.
really, that's the way. You've got to surrender to move forward.
And that's why, what is beautiful about this time where we live now is that there's so much guidance available. In the old days, really, when you were with your emotions and stuff was coming out, you were all alone. Like you didn't, people would call you crazy immediately, right?
Yeah.
Now it's different. Now we understand, oh, you're just releasing, some suppressed emotions. Oh, that's beautiful,
Yeah.
And there are all these techniques that are helping us to release that somatic
Yes.
technique, talk therapy, like all these different ways, meditation, journaling,
Breath
energy
therapy.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah. All of these
Mm.
ways that enable us to journey within. And one of the things I really love creating in my work now is creating systems for people, systematic, strategic, step-by-step systems to deal with certain problems. So it's almost like creating a process of how you actually go
Mm.
within step by step, in a way that it's structured and in a way that makes sense, and it actually leads to really big results. Because often it feels like when you have all these emotions coming up, it feels like
Mm.
just an ocean of stuff, right?
Yes.
So you
Yes.
do need a certain strategy and need certain steps that will help you go beyond what, let's say, just the modern day science or psychology um, takes you to. It has to go beyond. It has to go
Yes.
beyond the human psyche. It has to go
Yes.
to the level of your soul, of your true energy, and it's to the cellular level, like you were mentioning, ancestral information that is stored within us, collective energies. I mean, we need to create real shifts. We need to do really big work beyond
Mm.
just the psyche, psychological level, which is getting to that psychological balance, unbelievably important. Absolutely. But then we need to take the next step as well, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, absolutely. And these are some of the things that we're going to be teaching and working with at our retreat in Bali, where, really
Yeah.
looking at people's core beliefs and how we can help you to shift them, so that you
Mm.
don't have to be stuck in that belief that's not your friend and not getting you anywhere in life.
Yeah. You know what? I still see myself after doing all this work all this year with so many people on as well as on myself. And I just sometimes catch myself like with some nasty little belief that comes to the
Mhm.
surface and tries like to
Yeah.
control me. And I'm like, wow, just wow.
The
Still.
ego never rests.
Yes, exactly. And you know what really helped me, for example, when I realized that there were certain things that I really felt that I wasn't worthy or I wasn't good enough, what really helped me, and I actually did an experiment. And that's kind of how I, let's call it, manifested, or much more allowed a beautiful relationship to manifest in my life, because it was there. It just wasn't really fully in my life because I wasn't allowing it. So without even knowing that, I basically said, oh, I feel I have some negative core beliefs around relationships. That was a few years ago. So what I did, I had like this little piece of paper, and I wrote down like my future vision. which is like,
Mhm.
I have this beautiful life, this and this is happening with, beautiful relationship, work, everything. Anyway, I put it on a little piece of paper and I had it on my laptop. Right. So each morning I would open my laptop, I would read that note, and I would have it by my computer. And I would religiously read it at least twice a day. And I was just like, I was saying, this is an experiment. Let's see if this works. Let's
Yep.
see.
Yep.
1 month later.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
It
it was,
works.
again, it was about allowing. And what I would like people to understand is that, people think that they have to go to such great
Mm,
lengths
yeah.
to find their purpose, their partner, the life they want to believe in, the job they want to have. Like, no, you don't need to go great lengths. You don't need to get like PhD in, I don't know, life. It's so simple, actually. You actually have to allow yourself. You have to do your inner work, and then you have to allow yourself. And how do we allow? By reprogramming ourselves. So in that month, when I was reading that piece of paper, I was reading it every day, and I was really thinking, reflecting on how I was keeping myself stuck and always attracting unhealthy energies. And I was like, no, I'm done with that. This is what I want. It's healthy, it's beautiful, it's
Mm,
supportive, it's
yeah.
peaceful. Bam. And I was
Yeah.
like, when I looked back, did I really need all that time? No, I just needed to allow myself.
Yeah. Yeah. But I also feel, that's a wonderful way to do it. I must actually try that with some of
Yeah,
the beliefs that I could do with getting rid of. But
it's brilliant.
yeah, but the beauty of that is that it's not, you're not constantly repeating things. You're not constantly harassing spirits saying, make this work for me, please
Uh,
heal me, please fix it. You're
you're
just
not a
focusing
victim.
on what you want, and that becomes a reality. And
Yeah.
so you're just changing your reality basically, rather than yeah having to blame other people, but also having to go through a really difficult time of when we look back at certain religions and stuff in society where they just pray just endlessly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the masters have constantly said to us, we're not deaf, we don't need you to go on about things, we know what
Yeah.
you need and we will help you. You just need to believe in it yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's when you allow it. And
Yes.
I would really say that most people haven't actually mastered that. They
Mm,
have their desires, but they think that these desires will happen just by them, on their own. But really, you have to prepare. You have to clear the old. You have to
mm.
heal, do the inner
Yes, there has
work.
to be room for the new to come in. Yeah.
And then you have to allow it. And, I would really like to emphasize here is like when we work with our spirit team, whoever that might be, they are not here to rescue us. Nobody comes to rescue. Nobody. Nobody will rescue you. Nobody will take care of you unless you take care of yourself. And then you will receive support, because life is a big lesson in self-care, I
Yep,
would say, and
exactly.
self-responsibility and self-empowerment. So what do guides really do, or your spirit team? They give you a nudge. They
Mm,
point into a direction. They say,
hmm.
what about that? Have you thought of that? Oh, look at this wonderful book. Oh, what a wonderful article, or a great video with Teja and Dietrich.
Yeah.
Great idea, right? But that's about it. Then they
Mm,
watch you and they're like,
mm. What's
uh-huh,
she going to do now?
yeah, is she
Yeah.
listening? Is she listening? Or is she too busy with life, too busy with things?
And they will also remind us, as we choose our lives before we're born, we've already put in place before we were born all the people who are meant to help us, all the
Yeah,
situations that are most to help us grow and evolve. And
yeah.
again, your guides will help you to see that person. It's a great thing to do when you want to try something new or branch out in a different way.
Mm,
Just look at who you've already got around you, that you've
yeah,
already put here, and they will all be here to help in some way. So maybe you need a new website, for instance, and suddenly you remember, oh, that friend of mine designs websites, and that
mm,
friend of mine, oh, there's a graphic designer, and they could do the cards that go with it. And suddenly all these things fall into place that you don't actually have to run out looking for. You've already put them there. You just got to wake up and realize it's already here, just waiting to be used and or activated by you.
yeah. Maybe I would maybe like to wrap up this video with this idea of, how, when you have a really bad day, right? You have you're cranky, you're low, like really low in your energy, and everything feels like such a problem. The things you have to do feel so heavy, and it's like there's no way out. There's no way out. Like I can't do it any other way. I'm a victim of this situation. This is the only possible way of doing things, right?
Poor me.
Yeah. and you don't see other options. Now, you wake up the next day and suddenly you feel so recharged and so full of energy. And maybe you've done some energy work, some meditation, some energy clearing. You've done a walk in the forest, whatever it is. And then suddenly it's like, wow, you see your life completely differently.
Mhm.
Yesterday was a problem. Today, because you're in the high energy, you deal with it completely differently. And suddenly you say, do you know what? This and this thing in my life doesn't really inspire me. Is there an option, a possibility it could be different? And this alone, opening our mind to a possibility,
Mm.
is there something else? Could it be different? Is it possible? I believe it is. Let's look for other possibilities. Bam, a whole new way of
Yeah,
possibilities and solutions appear that the day before, when you were all cranky, were not possible, were
yeah,
not there. And
because you weren't being open.
yeah,
You'd
because you're
closed
only,
yourself off, and all your anger and all your worry and all your stress, you just closed everything off, and nobody can get in to help you or to encourage you or to nudge you.
yeah. And I see that, so I've seen that with myself,
Yeah.
especially in my work with overworking and all sorts of different things. When you are certain that there is no other way. And so whenever I start, for example, now feeling that I'm a little bit overwhelmed or something doesn't feel quite right, I'm like, okay, calm down now, clear the energy. Is there another way? Let's search for another way. Let's allow a completely magical, beautiful solution to appear out of nowhere. I don't need to know where it's going to come from. But what I would like is to solve this and these situations so I feel less pressured, have more time, feel really good. Bring it on, universe, or whatever, right?
Mm.
Bring it on. And then really it does appear. It
Mm.
does. I just need to stay in that space of just allowing.
Allowing. Yep.
And this is the feminine way. The feminine way is allowing, it's not chasing. And
Yep.
we're so disconnected from that feminine allowing because we
Mm.
think we're not worthy, we're not good enough. So
Yeah.
so important to look into that.
And we also need to remember that everything we do or everything we're meant to do is all about a co-creation with the universe. So the universe is there to help you, but you've
Mm,
got to take the first step.
yeah.
If you are wandering around going, I don't know whether I should do this or do that or do this, the universe
Yeah.
wants to help you. Your guides are sitting there waiting for a
Yeah.
job to do, but
Mm,
you're so confused that they don't know which direction to take. So they'll just take a step back and wait until
yeah.
you take a step in the right in a direction, and they will either support that or nudge you to go a different way.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, guys, I hope you got a lot of information today. It was a really fun chat, but really reflect on what we talked about. I know I'm going to the hairdressers now, and I know I'm going to reflect on that as well. I'm going to really do, because I'll have a little bit of time and I'll do a little bit of journaling into where I still feel a little bit stuck. So
Mm,
that's such a
good.
great way, everyone. A little bit
Yeah.
of journaling.
Right.
Cool.
Good tools for people to go away with and to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
good.
anyway, thank you,
Okay.
Dmitry. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Yeah, thanks
We'll
for
see
being
you
here,
soon.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.